Welcome to the 9642 podcast. This is your host, Mr. NumberNIne.
And this is The Fool.
This is where me and The Fool give our
Unqualified and unrequested
ramblings on the various issues in the world of sport.
or something like that.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast. We are back to our bread and butter football Premiership variety.
Yay.
So much has happened in the last 7 weeks. We will give special emphasis to certain teams.
Yeah.
And we will go into it. Now, at the risk of leading everything astray, how do you feel Chelsea's last 7 weeks have gone?
Not great, I have to say. There's up and down. There's been moments. It's hard to put into words.
I know we're gonna talk about Chelsea more in depth, obviously, either in this podcast later on or in another.
Yeah.
How do you feel Graham Potter has done so far with the one game and like Tuchel, the last 6 games he's had?
Yeah, so I really haven't formulated an opinion. I sort of felt with Tuchel, like it was both too soon and too late. Like it.
Yeah.
If they were going to sack him, they needed to sack him earlier. Like there was no point spending 200+ million on players just for Tuchel's system to then run out the clock on the transfer window and then sack him. If they were apparently always going to do it, or that they'd already done the review and these decisions were being made based off that, and that review was previous.
My understanding of it is it's not so much that they'd made the decision early on, but once they started, they needed to lean on Thomas Tuchel for transfer stuff because Todd Bowley, for whatever faults he may have, he doesn't think he's a football expert that knows everything, like Ed Woodward. And he basically, like Thomas Tuchel complained about it, right? That he was being, it was way outside his pay grade, and he was being told to do stuff, and he's not even really had a summer off. He's been really busy.
He's super busy, and apparently the big bit was when Peter Cech was moved on. That was the bit that Tuchel was really upset about, because Cech had been one that he'd relied on. He was the guy that would actually do all that. Tuchel would just be like, those are the sort of players I want. So Peter Cech would be like, I'll work with Maria out, we'll get the stuff sorted, and did all that stuff. And so Maria left and Todd.
Tuchel is the sort of player who's a sort of manager, I get the impression, who's kind of happy as long as you give him a coherent squad that has a philosophy. He goes, okay, I will execute that philosophy. Surely it helps if he has a more defensive team that's very well structured, but he's not that fussed about, this is how my team plays, this is how we practice. He's not Conte, who goes... Conte is all like, every little bit has to be automatic. Everything I want you to do in the key moments of the game has to be automatic. And like Guardiola's kind of a hybrid of the two of them, right? Like somewhere in between. And Klopp is sort of like on the Conte school, but completely different philosophy on what he wants to do. He thinks more about tactics and what you're doing in relation to your teammates, as opposed to when you have the ball, this is what I want you to do. Like, like a robot. Almost Conte wants that.
Yeah.
And the Tuchel, and I think Tuchel did a really good job of holding the club together during those really uncertain months when Chelsea didn't have an owner, couldn't negotiate with anybody, just keeping the players' morale up. He had been going through some personal stuff in his
there is that as well.
I think maybe it was best for both parties in the end. Thomas Tuchel, I felt like he was a bit burnt out at Chelsea. Like he'd done way more than anyone could have really asked, and realistically, there's not much further he could. He's probably spent, and like that relationship looks like Todd Bowley's like, he's good and all, but I don't think personally I want to work with him long term.
But that's what I mean. Is that, whilst you're right, the decision hadn't been made until more recently. The decision was based off reviews and analysis done earlier. That's what I mean. So Bowley had already hadn't decided, but he'd already done all the stuff he was doing of the reviews around it. It just took this long for it to decide what that was going to be done about it. But you're right that Tuchel was burnt out, I think. Like, he'd run his course.
Realistically, even if it was done earlier, why have him go to Dinamo Zagreb? That's such a weird decision.
That's what I mean. It
It effectively puts you guys really far behind. Like, I'm sure Chelsea will still qualify from a Champions League group, but points dropped and can end up being like really, really important, and you might end up going. What happens if you do get pushed down into third or worst case fourth? You're not even in the Europa League at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think definitely there's some timing issues, and that's probably an experience thing with Todd Bowley. Like, he doesn't, he didn't quite figure out the right time to fire. And like, what does this tell the next general manager? He's already spent like 200, 300 million. Like, he's dropped a lot of money on players for the club.
Exactly.
How much is the next general manager gonna get to spend and figure out the structure? But I think it's a bit of a hint that he's like, you can figure out what he wants to do. The fact that he's taken Graham Potter, he wants to implement that style, and he wants to buy from that interview. He wants to buy multiple clubs.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Potter is that probably the best manager to get, because Graham Potter's much more reactive, and he's very much one. This is a squad. Okay, what's good, what's bad? How can I work with this? What's the next opponent doing? Okay, what do I need to do for that with what I've got? And so, the one downside of firing Tuchel after spending, 200 plus million pounds over the summer for Tuchel's players, basically, is that at least Graham Potter's going to come in and is going to be able to work with them. Like, you could have other managers that might not have worked with, because they would be like, well, these are not players that fit my system.
Is in particular really weird.
Yeah.
But let's not dwell on Chelsea. Give him a grade for the season so far.
C minus, I guess. I mean, they did draw against Salzburg, which they've had 2 weekends off, so they can't have lost any more. So, but I'll give them a C minus. They're hanging in there.
Yeah. Well, for me, Manchester United. Wow, did they look bad at the beginning? Yeah. But I have to give Ten Hag a lot of props. The fact that he went on that 11.5 jog with the players and apparently was absolutely shattered, like nearly dying at the end. But the players respected it, that he was like, okay, you were outrun by Brentford by 11, I think 13.5 kilometers.
Yeah.
So they had to go for a 13.5 kilometer run.
Yeah.
And he joined them. Like, at first they were just like, what the hell is this? And then, oh, he's actually doing it with us. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's, you say, respect for that.
And he basically, apparently, he gave them a real piece of his mind. He's like, I have no interest, like, I'm absolutely not going to lose my reputation and put up with your crap, blah, blah, blah. And he sent a bunch of players to, send them to the youth team locker rooms and reserve team locker rooms, because there's no room for them. Like, literally no space. And because the Old Trafford locker room only holds about 26 player lockers. So players like, like Jones and people like them, they've kind of been moved to the reserve locker room, or like the youth locker rooms, from what I understand. So Phil Jones, so he's not afraid to, look, he's basically not let Ronaldo do whatever he wants either. So
no, exactly.
And the team, like, I actually thought both Liverpool and Arsenal were gonna absolutely thrash United, but that didn't happen. United played really well against Liverpool, I thought.
Yeah.
Even if they let in a bit of a soft goal. And ditto against Arsenal, and they've kind of been okay. Like Sociedad was a tough game, and they were really naive. They could have beaten Sociedad, but didn't. So I'm willing to give Ten Hag a B. I don't think that's being too lenient.
No, it's pretty good. He's saying it was a rough start, but yeah, definitely after that Brentford game, it's been a changed Man United.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've started to find a bit of the old selves.
Yeah, I mean, if like because of the top four picture is a bit with Chelsea and Liverpool being changed around. Like if you, where would you think would be considered a successful thing for Chelsea? What position? If they can't finish, do they need to be finishing in the top four, or do you a
Um,
Euro spot is enough?
no, I still think they need to be in the top four. Like, we spent plenty of money over the summer. We,
Yeah,
top
yeah, but
four
like
last
not
season.
this manager, right?
Not this manager. I mean,
Like, would
I think
you be like Graham Potter needs to get the sack if you finished fifth or sixth?
no, I probably wouldn't be that. But I'm pretty lenient on managers anyway, generally. Um, I, I I think for it to be a success, it has to be top four. I think if it's European football somewhere, even Europa Conference League,
What's your bare
like it's
minimum?
bare minimum is Europe. Like if he
Okay.
finishes outside of any European slot, and he gets no Europe next year, then it's like, look, you've, it's not working. You need someone else. It's done. But that
Yeah.
goes for just about any manager at Chelsea. Like you don't get um, European a European slot of some sort. Like you need to go. That's just
Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely understand that one. Moving on from another club that's underperforming. So you're ahead of Liverpool at the
Yeah.
moment, both on 6 games because you didn't, both of you didn't play in the weekend.
No.
Um, what would we rate Liverpool? Pretty.
Pretty
I
messy
think
as well.
we can tell. I think Liverpool have played their players, especially that starting 11 who are there, just have played so many games last season,
Yeah.
and they played well into the end of last season. I can tell, and the fact that they haven't had as much of an off season and are starting earlier, that's really shown. I think
Yeah.
on the players' output and their product, you know, their end product on the field, and also like their tiredness and how like there's a lot of criticism for people like Trent not just jogging back, not running in. I'm just like, yeah, but they're burnt out. These emotion, I think the team is emotionally and physically burnt out, and unfortunately for Klopp, like the club just haven't backed him.
No.
I think like they
Well, we've been
haven't bought him the recruitments he needs in central midfield to keep, you know,
yeah.
refreshing the squad.
I mean, we talked about it for the last few seasons, right? That Liverpool eventually were going to fall over because of the lack of depth in their squad.
Mm,
I think you're right. This is the season where that's actually showing. I mean, we had been talking about injuries, and yeah, I guess the other side of that is the mental fatigue as well. Like football's as much a mental game as it is a physical game,
yeah,
and it takes a lot of other players to perform at the level they've been performing. Um, so yeah, not surprised that they're burnt out. And you're right, it's what it's looking like. Um, I guess it's not that much a surprise that the only game where they put in a big effort was against Bournemouth. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, 2 wins, and I think they're having trouble finding goals at the end, and obviously they're conceding a lot of soft goals.
yeah,
The defense seems all over. But the Liverpool, like it's still Klopp. I still, and he's there. He's gonna have a fully fresh fully fresh Salah at the
yeah,
after the World Cup in for the Christmas fixtures. That could be like Liverpool. I feel like just need to get as many points as they can on the board until the World Cup starts, and then hope none of their players get injured. But that's really unlikely
yeah,
because many of their players play for England and are going to start, or play
yeah,
for their national team and are going to start.
exactly. Like they're gonna come back not rested. They're gonna be just as burnt out. Like
they're gonna need Salah to carry almost.
Yeah, that will be the case.
And Jordan Henderson being injured is a huge blow.
Yeah, that's huge for them. It's gonna be hard covering for Henderson.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, this is the thing. Like, I don't think the club has bought a player to cover for Henderson, and it's difficult to see how it all works together without him. But January transfer window's there as well. So hopefully, I fully expect the owners, if they're gonna back Klopp after giving him a 5-year contract at the end of last season.
yeah.
I think if they're gonna back him, they gotta back him. So they gotta get the personnel, the players in for him.
Yeah, well, exactly. They really do have to start getting more players in, so that they've got depth in each of their positions. But
yeah,
you say they're giving Klopp another 5 years on his contract. They've just got to.
Basically, if they ever want to win the league again, like, they can't rely on just being perfect and Manchester City being slightly less perfect. Because Manchester City, at the moment, they can win on second gear this season.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, every other club has to be perfect to beat Manchester City at second gear, just because they can refresh their players, and there's not going to be any player that, and they're gonna have a fully fresh Haaland in that Christmas fixture list. Like, it's
exactly
gonna be chaos. Like, he's gonna eat.
He's already eating all the other teams, right? Just imagine when everybody else is World Cup weary and coming back, and facing Holland, and Haaland's just like, hey, I haven't played football for a while, I really want to do this thing.
Yeah. So he's that's the situation. Like, Manchester City, like, we all talked about it, didn't we? Said at the beginning of the season, like, when they got Haaland, I'm like, okay, so they've won the league, right? So we thought, but now that Liverpool are, I still expect Liverpool to be top 4 in the end, just because of Klopp, and I expect the club to back him with some signings in January. But yeah, the whole thing is, it's a bit messy. Like, Liverpool could drop out if those things don't happen. Now, the City, do we even need to say A+ so far?
Yeah,
like, a few games here and there. Like, they always start a bit slow, a few draws, but maybe they'll get a loss between now and the World Cup. But they should win most of their games. They just look unstoppable at the moment. And like, Haaland's the cheat code, right? Like, every game where City look like we don't know how they're gonna score goals. They just can't break down a team, and there's just nothing happening. Haaland just goes, "Yep, I'm on it, boys," and just wills a goal, like, through sheer, willpower.
Yeah,
and talent, and does something outrageous, and you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, how are you meant to defend against that? When a defender, there's so many instances where, like, a defender who's marking Haaland does everything perfectly that you expect a central defender to do as a group, and Haaland still scores. Like, how do you? He's a mutant.
He pretty much is. Like, you're right. He's just a cheat code.
There's I was listening to another podcast about the NFL, and they were having a discussion around whether teams needed to have a mutant at quarterback to actually win the Super Bowl, because you need if you don't have a GOAT level player like Tom Brady, for example, but you need a mutant now to be going forward, and basically Haaland and I guess Mbappe, they're mutants. But I haven't seen as much of Mbappe for PSG. But yes, Haaland, I'm just like, this guy's scary good.
He is scary good.
We knew he was scary good, but he's
beyond
really
that.
Scary good. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he is beyond what we thought. It is scary, and you're
crazy.
Right. And
because he almost went to United instead of Dortmund. in
Yeah.
2017 before the just before 2020, just before the lockdowns happened with
All
it,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
because Ole Gunnar Solskjaer almost had that deal done and United didn't do it.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
no,
I suppose we could have got him. Technically, could have got him last year as well if we'd gone that route. So it's how the cookie crumbles a bit. But
yeah.
yeah, you're right. That City just are cruising through this. At the moment, Arsenal and Tottenham are keeping up with them. But yeah, you
What's
just sort of
gonna
feel.
like with Arsenal? Like, you saw what happens against United. Like, Arsenal deserved to win that game. That scoreline really flattered United.
Yeah.
I think Arsenal, but they just did some naive mistakes, and it just United got 2 goals in quick succession.
Yeah.
Um, where like, but they've got a good, solid team. They're a reasonable amount of depth as well. It'll be interesting to see how much game time. Like, Gabriel Jesus has got to go to the World Cup, right?
Yeah.
Like, is it crazy that Brazil are going, maybe you're surplus to requirements? I'm sorry, nobody else in that Brazilian squad, other
Yeah.
than Neymar, nobody else is as good as him as a striker. Sure, him, Vinicius Jr., Neymar, that should be their forward line.
Exactly. Just that's a
But,
scary forward line when you think about it. But
the Tite loves Richarlison. I'm like,
yeah, I
okay,
suppose he does.
he's not a bad player. Like,
Yeah.
but, surely Gabriel Jesus has to go at least as a sub to that World
Yeah.
Cup
Yeah.
squad, right? It's crazy to think. I mean, we're gonna look at World Cup squads when they're announced, but that's
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy.
It is a crazy
Um,
thought. You're right. Um,
uh,
but
Sorry,
yeah,
go
I
on.
mean, I was just gonna say Arsenal need to. They've basically had a perfect start, and they've got to continue that if they want
Yeah.
to keep up with City. So yeah, it's going to be crazy to see how that all pans out, and whether Arsenal and Tottenham can keep the pace.
Exactly. And Spurs have started really well. Look, if there's a
Yeah.
manager that can catch up with Guardiola, it's Conte, right? He's got
Yeah.
a system, he knows what he's doing, and the club have built to that system, and he's
Yeah.
getting like, that's a weird thing now, because Antonio Conte has usually been the guy who stays at a club for a few years, wins a lot of stuff, and then moves on after spending a lot of money. Now that he's like the kind of money to get the really good players, he has to be in a Premier League club. Like, I don't think Conte, like other big clubs, I don't think they're looking for a manager who's there, other than maybe Real Madrid, and I'm sure Conte might get an opportunity at Real Madrid. But right
Yeah.
now they've got, Ancelotti, who's basically like the older version of Conte,
Yeah.
in that he doesn't really have a system, and he comes in for a few seasons, wins a lot, and then he moves on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where uses the players, whereas Conte has to have a rigid system. I don't think Real Madrid's going to do that. For example, I don't think that would work at Barcelona. Would he coach in Germany?
Mm,
They're not going to back him with the sort of money he's looking for unless he's going to Bayern.
yeah. Yeah.
It's a it's an interesting thing, and like, where can he go in Italy? So he might have to be in Spurs for the long haul. It'll be interesting to see what a long-term Antonio Conte project looks like,
Yeah. Yeah.
because Spurs want to be a cemented top four side at the moment. I think Conte
Yeah.
can make them that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they get like, and basically Spurs want to, and once that step is taken, they want to be able to challenge, at least for a top 2 spot.
Exactly.
I think.
Yeah. Or at least be in that conversation.
Yeah, and then like deep cup runs, they need a trophy for sure.
100%.
But yeah, that's what they're looking at. And now, yeah, so I think Arsenal, Spurs, the 2 North London clubs, we got to give them A pluses, right? They've both had
Yeah. Yeah.
great starts to this season so
Yeah.
far.
Yeah. Exactly. They're definitely A plus.
The top 3, I think that we could extend that to the top 4. Brighton,
Yeah. Yeah. Brighton.
said
Yeah.
A plus.
A plus as well. Like they've had an awesome start. I see that the Brighton fans got a bit upset with Potter leaving for us, but at the same time, most of them understand. They were just a bit grumpy about it because of how well they had been doing, and a bit worried that might break up the flow. But because a lot of the backroom staff went with Potter, but they'd sort of come with him as well.
Yeah.
Well, some of them had come with him, and then some of them had gone. Some of them had been there already, but still went with him. But
the new Brighton manager does come with a great reputation. Roberto Di Zerbi, 43 years old. He used to manage Sassuolo, got them into the Champions League.
All right.
He almost got Benevento prevented them from being relegated. So he got some interesting tactical stuff that he does in Italy. I think it's a very I think all the tactics nerds are like, ooh, we really like this buy, and we really like this signing. We think it's a great option. I'm inclined to agree because I think he is a good manager, and Brighton's a place where he will get time to implement his system. Like at the moment, he's probably just being told to work with what players he has, and he's able to do that because he manages because he's also went to Shakhtar and won the league there. So he's able to go to a dominant club and go, let's win and outperform, and he's also be able to make a mid-table size overperform their budget and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. So I think does sound like a good hiring for Brighton, and that should be good. So it's saying it's not like they've got a bad squad as such. So I'm sure he'll do well and continue to build on Potter's success over the last couple of years of turning Brighton into a mid-table.
And Brighton always scout well, recruit well, have a good youth system, so they've got a really good setup at Brighton. So I imagine it will go well. But another club, I think, because we've already talked about Manchester United, the club from West London that's above Chelsea, Fulham. Now, it's interesting to me that Fulham, because the last few times they got promoted into Premiership, they did the whole sell a lot of their Championship players and buy a lot of Premiership caliber players, and then, couldn't gel in time to get into it. And it's had its issues, which is like what Nottingham Forest has done. Now, that being said, Fulham this time kind of did a hybrid. They did halfway between Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest. They they kept a bunch of their players but they also took in a bunch of key interesting players. I mean, Mitrovic is on the form of his life, obviously.
That does help.
And it's gonna be they're gonna hope like hell that he doesn't get injured in the World Cup, because that might end their season right then and there. But so far so good, Fulham. And Marco Silva is a good coach. He knows how to he knows how to adjust his team, with the players he has and get the best out of them. So I think Fulham, I gotta give him an A at least, if not an A+.
I think right. They're pretty much also got to have an A+. They're well outperforming expectations. And say they're the better of the West London clubs. So
at the moment,
for the moment, I mean, we do have they have played one more game than us, so that gives a little bit of benefit there. But but let's give them the A+ as well.
Moving on, Liverpool. I mean, we talked about them a little bit, shall we? I think we gotta. I can't go higher than a C.
I think the same. Like it's They've pretty
There's
much had the
stuff to
same.
hope for, but I'm sure there's a lot of disappointed Liverpool fans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean it's a lot the same as the Chelsea as us Chelsea fans. Like it's not really what we're expecting. Things aren't quite looking well. With them, it's been more draws than losses. So, I mean, there's that. But yeah, I think a C at best.
Yeah. Next up, Brentford. I think they've so far had a decent season. They're at the moment ninth, 2 wins, 2 losses. It's what you expect Brentford to do. I think
Yeah,
Jesse Marsch has got the team working well. Really, obviously reliant on Ivan Toney.
yeah.
I would be shocked if Toney doesn't make the trip to Qatar, but he might not. Given Gareth Southgate does not like, is probably too loyal for his own good to the players who have played for him previously. So
Yeah, yeah.
Brentford, if Tony doesn't go to the World Cup, Brentford might do really, really well. Because coming back, a refreshed Ivan Toney playing against their rivals, could see them going very well. But so far they've probably lost more games than lost games a bit naively every now and then. Um, Definitely still some work in progress there, so I'm gonna give them a B plus for me.
Plus, yeah, I think that is pretty good for them. I think that's about right, as you say. They're pretty much at or just above expectations, and where they'd like to see themselves. They're say still very reliant on Tony, but when haven't they been over the last couple of seasons? So yeah,
Yeah.
let's call it a B plus.
Newcastle United. Now I think we were very optimistic about them, and still pretty optimistic, I think. But
Yeah.
1 win out of 7 games, that's a bit disappointing, especially because the team hasn't looked bad.
No.
They've looked very strong. Now, once again, after the World Cup, if Alan Saint Maximin doesn't make that French squad, and he might not, because France are stacked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely stacked in the forward positions. If he doesn't make that France squad, he could come back refreshed for Newcastle. I mean, I still think they're unlucky with the I'm sure if we did a look at their expected goals and expected points, they would be winning more games and getting further ahead. But at this stage, they're only 10 points behind Arsenal. So at 10th place, it's not too bad.
Not too bad.
I don't expect Newcastle, but I think Newcastle want to be finishing at least sixth or at least seventh to get a European spot. So if we're looking at Chelsea's position at seventh, Newcastle are about 2 points, 2 points behind, with Chelsea having a game in hand. So I can't be over generous. I think Newcastle B minus for me.
Yeah. You say it's a lot of draws for Newcastle, which is disappointing, but at the same time, it could have been worse. Like if those had been losses, there'd been a lot more problems. So yeah, it's hard to say, and being 10th, nice in the middle, it's a very middling sort of thing. So
I think that's a justified position for them to be in.
To be fair, to say it's you just think that they, given the money behind them, that maybe they'd be higher, but at the same point they haven't really splashed the cash yet. So I think you're right. B minus seems a fairly fair. You don't really. I couldn't give them a C plus or a C, and a B maybe, but B plus seems too high. So let's go with B minus. It seems fair.
Leeds United, I think, performing really well. They're one of the clubs people thought might be getting relegated this season.
People, you mean us?
Yes, and they've had they've got their new tactics with Jesse March. Really, really good. I think, really fun to watch. I think Leeds, 6 games. Realistically, I'm almost inclined to give them an A, given their resources and what players they've lost and what they've done with refreshing the squad after their second season, in their third season back from
Yeah.
championship. So I think for me that's got to be a. That's got to be. I mean, sure, there's still at this stage. Everyone in the bottom 10 is still a danger for relegation.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
It's
but
early
yeah,
days for
Leeds.
that, so.
Yeah, but Leeds. Yeah, I think I can A minus for me.
Yeah, I was with Leeds. I'm flicking between a B plus or an A minus. As you say, we had them pegged for relegation, and they're not really looking relegation fodder at the moment. As you say, it's early days, so everybody's still within touching distance of that, or just about everybody. Um, so it won't take a
Yeah,
lot to change their fortunes, but yeah, I probably lean towards the A minus as well, just because at the moment they are, these first 6 games of theirs they've overperformed. So A
yeah.
minus.
AFC Bournemouth. Once again, I think another A
Yeah,
minus here. They're above
yeah,
what we would expect in terms of points. They're grinding out results. They're definitely getting their asses handed to them every now and then, but they're taking the wins where they can get them. So
yeah,
more power to them. Like they've got the worst goal difference in the league at the moment
yeah. Just about
at
the same.
negative 13.
Negative 13.
But 8 points. Can't complain.
Exactly.
Yeah, A minus for me.
Yeah, no, I think for all the reasons I just said for Leeds, Bournemouth were also one of the other sides we had pegged as a relegation fodder, along with I think it was Fulham. So showing our ability to pick teams that are going to not perform. Um, but yeah, I think A minus for Bournemouth as well, same as Leeds.
Yeah. Yeah, and from them we've got next we've got Everton, who have uh, had a disappointing season, I think, by their
Mm,
standards. They just look lifeless and listless on the pitch. So I think their one saving grace is they're not Aston Villa under Stevie Gerrard, because I think Frank is kind of going with kind of adapting his tactics and trying to get the team to play to the team's strengths at least.
yeah.
Like I feel like there's a bit more life in Everton than there is in Aston Villa, so I think I will give them a C minus. In fact, I think Everton, Southampton, Villa, I'll give them all C minuses. I will give Crystal Palace a C plus because they've had a very tough run of fixtures and still at a decent position.
Yeah, I think I mostly agree with that. You're right that Crystal Palace has had the much tougher of the fixtures. Um, so yeah, they can have a bit of leeway for that. You can't face the top clubs and expect to be coming away with large point hauls. Um, and in fact, Crystal Palace is only at a -2 goal difference with it's City and Arsenal and Tottenham or something like that. Um, so that definitely is good for them. Um, yeah, Everton, Southampton, Aston Villa definitely underperforming. I think Everton
Yeah.
and no, actually, I think I agree. I was going to split them out a little bit, but no, I think all of them would expect to be doing better. They should all be mid-table-ish or above.
Yeah,
So
I
C
also
minus.
am gonna be a bit lenient on Wolves. They're very unlucky on the XG. Like they're just not
Yeah,
getting enough goals at the end, but they're nice. They're controlling the games. They've got a lot of possession. They don't concede much. They're very yeah,
yeah.
they're a fun team to watch as well. So I think Wolves, I'm gonna give them a C plus because
I
I
mean,
think
two of the Wolves' losses were to Man City and Tottenham. So you give them a bit there. That once again, it's
yeah,
you're not expected to win against those top teams. I mean, for Wolves, it'd be disappointing for the draws against the likes of Newcastle, Bournemouth, Fulham. Like these are games that have hurt. And it's only draws, but
Yeah.
that's where the points needed to come from.
Yeah, those other clubs are, they're probably gonna have relegation battles to go
Yeah.
through. So Wolves want to put a gap between those clubs and them in the points table as early as possible.
Exactly, and having those ones early on just means like that's the first set of games against them gone. So you're now going to face everyone else, and
Yeah.
you can be. The Wolves are currently in the relegation danger area, I guess, at 17th. So, but yeah, it feels like they may be there for a while. So it's going to be a bit of a scrappy first half of the season for them, and that's because they can start putting together some results.
Now the three clubs in the relegation area, 18th to 20. Okay, West Ham, Nottingham Forest, D's for those two teams. Leicester D minus.
I'd give West Ham the same as Leicester, D minus. I mean, come on, what is West Ham doing down in 18th? Nottingham Forest, it's a D, but it might be a D plus because they've got 4 points on the board, so they managed to win in that time. And
true.
Yeah. I mean, we were hoping for good things for them.
Nottingham Forest D plus. I agree with you. That I'll change my mind. West Ham, Leicester D minus.
D minus. I mean, neither of those two teams should be in these positions. Leicester, even F, Z. What's the lowest grade you could possibly give Leicester? It's just been horrible for them. Yeah. Leicester's got to sort something out somewhere. No wins, 1 draw, 6 losses. I mean, really, minus 12.
Club are in trouble with FFP. They can't get new players. I don't know what they'll do if they get relegated. Like Leicester could have the Leeds effect of getting relegated and going in as far as the second division, like Blackburn.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, absolutely. I would be worried if I was a Leicester fan. But I don't know what do you do with Brendan Rodgers? Like, is there anyone better who can take them further than they are at the moment?
Yeah.
Tuchel?
Tuchel, yeah. Tuchel. He's available. Yeah, I know that is the question for Leicester. Is it even worth getting rid of Rodgers? But
I mean, I understand if you're a fan, you want to do something.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, is it gonna be, is it gonna be effective? I mean, sure, Tuchel, but can you imagine Tuchel at Leicester?
Oh dear, yeah.
Even he tried to get half their team to Chelsea.
Yeah. I suppose it's a good point. He's a good fit. He obviously likes the Leicester City team. So if you can't, he's got to go to the mountain sometimes. Can't bring the mountain to him.
That's true. I mean, yeah. It's a difficult position. Like Nottingham Forest, at least if they get relegated, they can do the whole yo-yo club thing. Whereas Leicester, I can't imagine with their FFP problems like Nottingham Forest gamble. They had to go for that gamble to try and do. Like, I have no problem with what they did, how they did it.
No.
And also, I think Steve Cooper is a really good manager, and he's done well with clubs being promoted into the Premier League before, like he as the manager of Reading. And so I think if there's any man who can get all these new players to gel and work together to try and keep the club afloat, it's him. Whereas like West Ham, David Moyes and Brendan Rodgers, what is this a does Thomas Tuchel go to West Ham?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, right? Like, both of those clubs must be looking at Tuchel and just trying to work out whether he's going to be the key for making things better. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Thomas Tuchel might just want to take some time off from management just
I
to
could
get his
imagine.
bearing.
Yeah.
But you know, like every big club in the world has surely every manager who's slightly underperforming, like Julian Nagelsmann at Bayern's apparently on the hot seat,
Yeah.
and like the I think if you have like I said, in the Premiership, there's already the West Ham, Leicester, Villa, like all these
Mm.
clubs that just like Thomas Tuchel, why not?
Yeah.
Like
Why not?
there's a shadow on every manager who underperforms because Thomas Tuchel's available, and
Yeah.
like any team, there's a lot of teams that'd be happy to have him.
Oh, exactly. I do think I agree with you that Tuchel will probably want some time off. As you say, he's had a bit of a hell of a year, really. Um, I can imagine that he would be looking to just have a bit of time away and let things unwind a bit.
Yeah,
But say come Christmas, you'll be looking again, and basically it could be that these coaches have got till the World Cup basically to turn performances around.
all right. Prediction time. Before the World Cup break, are we gonna see any more sackings?
Actually, I had the feeling that yes, it's probably going to be Rodgers at City.
Yeah.
Like they're just not looking good, and as you say, it's uncertain how they can
Is it the
turn this all
race?
around.
Because if Leicester fire Rodgers, does West Ham then have to fire Moyes so they can get Tuchel?
Well, there does come that a bit as well. Like, what do they?
Like, there's gonna be a domino effect, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
there is a Thomas Tuchel shaped hole, Thomas Tuchel shaped shadow, right? And as
yeah.
soon as one club fires okay, I don't think Bournemouth's gonna fire their manager. I don't think Brighton's gonna fire their manager. Like,
No,
managers will be given time. I don't think Patrick Vieira's leaving Palace.
no,
Um, Ralph Hasenhüttl at Southampton, maybe.
maybe
Um, I mean, once again, does
Wolves,
Thomas
maybe,
Tuchel Wolves maybe?
maybe.
But does Thomas Tuchel want to play manage a club that's not in the top four? Isn't got Champions League?
Yeah, well, exactly. So, I mean, really looking at West Ham, Leicester City is be the main ones he'd be looking at, and probably out of that West Ham because they should be doing a lot better than they are.
West Ham's in London, like and
and
he
it's in
can.
London too.
Because yeah, I think if I were a manager, it was between Leicester and West Ham. I'd want the West Ham job.
Yeah, that would be my thought too. Though I do quite like the Leicester players as well. So, I mean, the Leicester club feels like it'd be a very, very smooth job without, have a lot of things going for you, and things would to me would feel easy, like not being a manager or in any way, shape or form knowing exactly what's going on in Leicester. Other than the current just absolute shit show that's going on, it's always felt Leicester's always felt like it's a well-run club, right? It's got
Yeah.
all the things going for it. So,
We used to always talk about the way we describe Brighton is how we used to describe Leicester. So
yeah,
I think as much as I talk doom and gloom, even if Leicester were to be relegated, I feel like they would get promoted right back up. But I think it's very difficult to lay a lot of the blame on Brendan Rodgers, given they've
yeah.
had no recruitment at all.
I mean, that's the harsh bit. Like, it feel really harsh for Leicester to sack Rodgers, given, as you say, there's not a lot he could be doing about it all. Like, it's sort of out of his hands. I do feel like if they get relegated, I don't think they'd come up. That's because they sorted some stuff out. They might not come back up straight away, but they'd be back up in a year or two. It might be spend a season down in the championship and then bounce back up. But when they came back up, I feel like they'd be coming back up to stay again.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. You say there is issues. I just feel that's probably the place where it's more likely to have a firing. That said, if West Ham is more likely the one that Tuchel would want to go to, so we'd have to see.
Yeah, absolutely. It could end up being that way, like the whole, so many ex-Chelsea managers managing in the Premier League. Like, can one of them tempt Mourinho to come in?
Come on.
We all know we need a bit of Uncle Mo in our life.
We do need Uncle Mo in our life.
Right. Now, because we did say we were going to talk about Chelsea. Let's talk about Chelsea. Did you watch that interview that Todd Bowley gave?
No, I haven't seen that interview, actually, no. I've seen reports on it, bits and pieces on it, but I haven't seen the interview itself.
I know a lot of the big thing people have taken from it is his suggestion about an all-star game.
Yeah.
Now, to be clear, he said that in a very offhand, like, this is money we get on a weekday for having, like, an all-star game with this sort of viewership numbers, blah blah blah, the Premier League is not exploiting something similar. He didn't say we need an all-star game, and he said for example, we could do this. Now, he was doing some big pie in the sky thinking, and no idea is a bad idea. But this is the thing, he's saying all this kind of publicly and like discussing his thoughts on what to do. Like, I can't imagine Roman Abramovich or the Glaziers.
No, exactly.
Or a lot of owners, like Todd Bowley. It's pretty interesting. Like, he thinks Chelsea's future, what he wants Chelsea to do is become a super club, like a proper, like the way Manchester City and the Red Bull Group, be like the flagship of a fleet of clubs, as opposed to being like its own, independent ship.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I do know the Chelsea Reddit. Chelsea Reddit wasn't so upset about that. r/football decided to go all in on that one and complain about it and stuff. About having a Red Bull type thing. It was like, well, that's pretty much what City does anyway, so...
And that might be the model going forward, right? Like... how you stay relevant competitively. Like, he owns multiple sports teams already. It makes complete sense to me that when you go to the Chelsea mega store, you can buy Los Angeles Dodgers gear because he owns the Los Angeles Dodgers. Like, why would you not do that?
It's part of the group.
Yeah, it's part of the group. And like, if they bought a club in Portugal, like he was saying, I don't think like it could be any of the big three or one of the bigger clubs like Braga or Victoria Setúbal. It might even have to be a second division club that goes that slowly gets promoted into the system. But like he wants Chelsea to have a way, and it's interesting he got Graham Potter. If Graham Potter is stylistically designing the system for a Chelsea group, I don't think this club will be called Chelsea in Portugal either. Like, he thinks it's an ideal place to bred South American players, which I agree. You could have a club in Portugal, a club in somewhere like Belgium. Yeah. Like, Manchester United for a while had that system where Royal Antwerp was like Manchester United's satellite club in the Belgian league.
Well, it's not. I mean, to be fair, the concept's not that new.
And the flip side of that is what they would do if that club were to ever make the Champions League, because of the way the new system is
Mm.
with the expanded Champions League. The fifth league is getting 4 teams in the league, and there is a good possibility if Portugal keeps doing well and the French teams keep sucking, because they're basically being held up by PSG. France
Yeah,
is
yeah,
not really the fifth strongest league. It's the league with PSG.
yeah, yeah. PSG is the fifth strongest league by itself, basically.
Yeah, yeah, I mean there are good clubs in France, but
Yeah, yeah.
a league that has clubs like Sporting, Porto, Benfica, and Braga is stronger than a league with when you discount PSG, it's got Lyon, Nantes, Marseille, things like they're good clubs, but there's a reason why there have been like you know 4 European Cups slash Champions Leagues won by Portuguese clubs and only one by French clubs in history. Like that's that's what it is.
Yeah.
And like if they become the fifth place team and they get 4 clubs, there's a decent chance that that club would be the Chelsea owned club, just from the backing and finance they would have
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
to, like the way RB Salzburg pretty much rules Austria, the
Yeah.
Austrian league. Now, like, and before we get into the thing about why does Leipzig and Salzburg get into the league, it's because technically Red Bull don't own Leipzig.
Yeah.
They've done a very clever loophole that Leipzig is still owned by the Leipzig Lawn Bowls Club. It just
Hmm.
so happens all the voting members are Red Bull employees. There's only 5 of them,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Well, that's how that goes,
Look,
I guess.
look on a technicality, RB Leipzig is not Red Bull Leipzig, even if that's their nickname.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But technically, Red Bull don't own them. They just own RB Salzburg. So
Yeah.
that's their thing. That's how they get around it. Chelsea are not going to do that sort of shenanigans, I don't
No,
think.
exactly. Well, unlikely, given that he's publicly talking about it. So
I mean, so were Red Bull.
I suppose, yeah.
So, sure, he might pull something like that and be like, yeah, I'm technically not the owner. And then it becomes a very, it becomes a very interesting situation. Like, City Group have gone, they've got a few clubs in Europe, but they're all pretty much, they're clubs in the second, third division in European leagues.
Yeah.
There isn't, excuse me, Girona, I think, got relegated into the second league, but could maybe potentially one day become a top tier club. But I don't think they're breaking to the top 3 of Spanish football,
No,
even with
unlikely.
City's money.
Yes.
But the thing is also, as a big group, as a combined earner, and if you do your sums cleverly with the accounts and joint marketing and things of scale, you can have a lot more money available to you from an FFP perspective to be part of a group.
Yeah, and that's beneficial.
And that's beneficial in your own league to keep you competitive.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's definitely watch this space. Like, Todd Bowley seems to have more vision about what to do with Chelsea, even if at least he wants to do something.
Yeah.
It's not I own this and leave it to make money like Kroenke and the Glaziers, where it's ridiculous. The Glaziers clearly are just sucking money out of Manchester United for
Yeah.
every penny. Stan Kroenke is a bit more of a complicated relationship because apparently he did not have a full ownership of Arsenal till 2019, and that's when they had their
Alright.
first big spending spree. So he
Yeah.
wasn't willing to spend a lot of his own money on something where it was still a partnership.
Yeah. That's understandable as well.
Yeah, and he's also now spending and done all these things. So these now that he's got the full ownership, it'll be Arsenal are probably got a different spending model going forward. Stan Kroenke is not afraid to just spend money to win things. That's what he did with the LA Rams,
Yeah.
and the Tampa Bay Lightning. So, you know, we I can see Arsenal becoming successful and like multi-sport empire once again. He's got a multi-sport empire.
Yeah.
And the Glaziers technically have one as well. So it's becoming increasingly difficult to see like the whole independent, like the independent, fan-owned club like Real Madrid, Barcelona is
Yeah.
definitely like something in the like Bayern Munich, like they almost feel like your local dairy down the road now. Like, sure, they're mega clubs, don't get me wrong, but compared to this, multinational companies that the other clubs are.
Yeah, exactly. It just, yeah, right. Feels quaint. Byproduct of a
Yeah,
bygone day.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, what are your thoughts on the well, let's just call it the first 100 days of the Bowley regime at Chelsea?
Um, I'm actually, despite everything, strangely confident still. I'm still feeling somewhat happy that I think you're right. Like, Baldy's a guy with plans, and he has a direction, and he knows what he wants. And they're big, wonderful plans that I think even he's like, this is just, ideal state. This would be really awesome if it was something like this, something like this. Don't know how we can make it work, but hey, wouldn't this be cool? Um, and it's actually quite refreshing. It's like something new and interesting. Um, Performance-wise, like, meh. I'm not, say, we discussed at the beginning, not sure about the whole Tuchel sacking thing, or the process around it, and how it's all sort of played out. Potter, like, definitely seems good, and seen good things from him. Once again, just got to get the results, but feel like he's going to get those in the short term, and probably for the rest of the year. Like, I feel confident that any deficiencies that are there will be sorted out.
Where are Chelsea gonna finish?
Um,
At this point of the season, we and I both agree. City first?
So if it's not, yeah, I think the top three are City, Arsenal, and Tottenham. I think those three are going to go away. And I think I agree that it's going to take something amazingly special from the other two to stay with City the whole season.
I do think Arsenal are a bit vulnerable to injuries, but if they have normal injuries, not a disaster, horrific injury, like just normal, every day, every club gets injuries, sort of injuries, they should still finish in the top three. I agree with you.
Yeah.
On that.
It's like, yeah. It would take something amazing for them to stay with City. I think I agree that, yeah, City's going to win, and probably win quite easily in the end. Arsenal, Tottenham fight out for second and third. I think, yeah, fourth will be where we might just sneak fourth, but I think, yeah, fourth's going to be a bit of a fight there, and maybe Brighton and Fulham continue doing really well and stay in contention there. But I think fourth, fifth, sixth is going to be between Liverpool, us, and you. And I'm not 100% sure exactly what order those are going to end up in. So I'll be hopeful and say that we'll end fourth, but we might end fifth.
Yeah. I think Chelsea are going to finish fifth. I think United will finish sixth. I do think Liverpool will sneak in a fourth.
Yeah.
Just because they're Liverpool and it's
They are Liverpool, yeah, and they will bounce back, but yeah, as you say,
and fresh Salah.
Yeah, fresh Salah would make a big difference. So maybe that will just be the thing. Once Salah's had his break over the World Cup, comes back, and he'll have a point to prove and everything. So
there is a school of thought at United that Cristiano Ronaldo will be given like a light workload till the World Cup by Ten Hag, and after January, if he's not sold, he will be effectively like humming because he will play in the World Cup at like while being fresh. He's not going to be tired and over,
Oh yeah.
and it's probably his last World Cup,
Yeah.
almost certainly.
Almost certainly.
And if he has a big one, like I'm saying, scores 5 goals at the World Cup, gets Portugal to the quarters or semis, then
Yeah.
he might come at United and be like, yeah, I'm carrying this form on with me.
Yeah. That yeah.
So it's the opposite of a fresh player, more like a player who's humming along and but not tired. He's not burnt out yet.
Yeah, exactly. Because there is a sweet spot there, and that there is that for Liverpool. Salah being off or even Haaland
A
being off
winter
for
break,
that time.
right?
Yeah.
It's the
How do
whole
they come
we've
back
been
from that?
asking for. This is what the players have been asking for ages. Like, we need a winter break. I've been thinking about that, like the rate of players playing now and the whole break. I think like the players' union in every European league kind of just need to go together. Like, I think the way baseball, you have pitch counts. So, once a pitcher has a certain amount of pitch counts, he's off the rotation for a few games to give his arm a chance to rest and recover and heal.
Yeah.
I was like thinking, I reckon the football players just need to go, yep, once we have played 180 minutes, there has to be a mandated week between our last minute and going our next game.
I see what you mean. Yeah. So if they rack up 180 minutes, then no midweek games, whatever that midweek game is.
They're forced. So like, I play a game 90, full 90, another game full 90, another game full 90. Then I have to take a week off.
So it's 270. But yeah.
Well, sorry, 270. Oh, sorry, 180. So one game, and then I have to take a week off.
Yeah.
It's just as a. I don't. The numbers don't have to be what they are there, but you know what I mean. Like, but if I have taken a week off between a game, like if I've taken 7 days off, it refreshes my 180. So even if I've only played 50 minutes, if I've taken a week off from that game in another game, then you've refreshed your thing.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So to me, it might be 270, so that'd be 3.
Yeah, 270.
Maybe 250, so it's not quite 3 full games in a week. So that's Premier League, Champions League, Premier League, then rest. And maybe that's not quite full games.
Maybe there's a special thing of like it's 250 games, but you're not force substituted off. But if you go over that amount, it goes from 7 to 10 days that they can't. So you're giving them a bit of extra time. Like like if a game goes to extra time and you need to keep that player on and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it's basically allows for that to go through, and it just keeps the players fresh and less injury prone.
Yeah, you're pretty much mandating the city rotation system.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. Like, I think City's showing that that's a good plan. Like, this is how you keep your players injury-free, fresh, performing at their best.
And like emotionally healthy, good mental headspace and all this.
Yeah, exactly. All the good stuff.
And like it's not as necessary in the championship because very few players are playing multiple games in a week in that competition. But sure, if you do have a situation where you're playing a midweek cup game and a
I think
game,
the championship has a few midweek rounds though, don't they?
Yeah.
They fit all their games into the season. They have midweek games.
Yeah.
While they don't have European, they still have League Cup, FA Cup, and then they've got league games midweek sometimes as well. So that's still a lot of games they've got.
You could probably implement it all the way down.
Yeah.
The football pyramid, the top 4 things. Because
Yeah.
for League One, League Two, it won't necessarily be that you don't need to have that much bigger a squad.
No, exactly. Because like once you get down far enough, I think it's something that you could put into any professional at for the entire professional part of the pyramid. Just
Yeah,
if it's a professional league, then this is the
and
mandated rotations.
yeah, and I think it needs to be a European wide,
Yeah,
and I think there needs to be some, like, let's be honest, like Gavi playing something like 70 games for Barcelona last season. That's ridiculous. It's
that's
effective. It's
crazy.
basically child labor. He's like a 17-year-old. Like, I'm just imagining the sheer amount of like work he's putting into his body through playing that number of games, and like forget the emotional strain. Like, yeah, like the like how much is it shortening his career from just
Exactly.
playing so much and um getting his
It's-
body putting that pressure on his body when
yeah,
it still needs to grow out and
exactly.
mature
There's a lot of
physically.
strain going on his body, and potential for some, well, still say 17, so his body's a bit flexible and moldable, but still potential for some serious injuries in that just from the amount of
Yeah,
game time, and that's going to set him back and set back his development and set back his physical well-being as well if that happens. So,
yeah.
yeah, it's crazy to think about playing that many games.
I mean, I think there has to be, especially like younger players, like there has to be a thing of like if you're under 18, you can't be forced to work adult hours. Like I think maybe if you're under 18, 180 minutes, and then you do have that enforced break,
Yeah, no, I think so.
and like you cannot play more than, oh, let's say 25 times 90 if you're under 18, whatever that number ends up being, or
For the whole
a
season.
season, for the whole
Yeah,
season.
yeah, that's 2,000 odd playing
And
minutes,
then
2,200. So
yeah, and then if you're over the age of 18, maybe we make it 20. Just do the science, like get
yeah,
physiologists who study this to get the thing, and just go, hey, we need to have if you have, maybe it's 2,500 a season for players over 20,
yeah. You
and
say we can
you
get some proper science in on this and
yeah,
come up with total minutes that are reasonable
yeah.
for everyone.
And if it's like the players' unions in all the leagues in Europe, and they like enforce that in UEFA, and they basically go, anybody transferring into this league from another uh, confederation, if they've played 1,000,
Bring your minutes with you, right, for the calendar year or
yeah,
something, or for the
you bring your minutes with you into the
yeah.
season, yeah. And if they'll we'll
For
work
minutes
out
since
some
the last big
complicated
break.
we'll
So
make some complicated we'll make some complicated formula around, okay, how many game, when, if you have a different season starting date, southern hemisphere, northern hemisphere stuff.
yeah. I'd say you just have it since the last big break, so that if you say had 3 weeks or 2 weeks off, that
Yeah,
resets. That's the reset. Like it's like a 3 week break means a reset of your time. So you just carry minutes since the last 3 week or month break that you
yeah,
had for whatever reason. So if you hadn't be off for any reason, if you had no
yeah. But
football
that would
for
be your 2 weeks off for for your like 270, right? Like if you've taken a week off, that's your 270. But if you've
yeah, no, that's longer. So it'd be a longer break. So you got your short break to reset your 270, but your season's worth of minutes need a season break. So that's what 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever. Like maybe longer, as a, a long rest, and the long
yeah,
rest resets your season minutes. And so you're saying
yeah,
you got like 2,500 minutes for the season. That's total. That's just a set number. That's what every player has, and as soon as they reach that, that's it. They're done for the season. Like you've got to squads, managers, you've got to manage your overall minutes of your players. You just can't have people just playing the whole time. And then you've got your 250 or 300 or whatever it is minutes. That's your game minutes. That's your week minutes basically. And once you reach that, that's a 7-day stand down or 7-day rest before you play your next game. That's just to manage people through. And you just I think the other thing there is just making sure that everything sort of adds up between those two sets of numbers. For your season's minutes and for your playing minutes.
Yeah. And that'll probably work. Something like that would be really good. And if you've got like an international tournament in the middle, there might be some special rules around. Okay, the moment that you've played your last game for that international tournament, you must be given 3 weeks off before you play another game for your club.
Yeah.
So, that'll be like you can have a 3 weeks before, 2 weeks before that tournament, 2 weeks after, and then I
think at this point we're just making sure that the windows for the big international tournaments have properly scheduled rest periods before and after. Like you can't just go straight from playing club football straight into a tournament and then straight out of it back into club football again. Like no. Like, these are we've got to recognise these are high stress, high pressure environments for both of them, and both have their own stresses and everything, and that people need to have their time around that.
Footballers are people too.
Exactly. Strangely enough, they are.
Yeah. Like I think it's one of those things where I don't know why players' unions aren't mandating it, because I think at the end of the day, every football player is thinking along the lines of, we've got this short window to make as much money as possible, and we should, play as many games as possible so we can get as much, appearance money from our sponsors and all this other things. Whereas, like, I think somebody in a players' union needs to properly do the research, do the math and the analytics, and show everybody, like, look, pushing yourself through this just means you're losing 2 or 3 years later on, which you could have.
Yeah, exactly.
And like you're less likely to get injured, and things like this further on. It's better to have a longer career with less games per season than like a short career with lots of games per season.
Yeah, especially with the higher chance of injury and the mental toll that's coming with that. Like, yeah. Take the first option.
Yeah. Like my other thought to revolutionize like the health aspect of player health in football is, I think, what if the Premier League mandated that every club has to pay for footballers' therapy bills?
Yeah.
And like, especially including your youth team players who you're not, who you're letting go, and then things like this, like just to make that transition from, especially for a lot of not every player is gonna take it, but every player who's like, yep, I have I have a running thing with my therapist. I think like the club just goes, yep, we pay for that now.
I think actually it could almost be a mandated thing. That's just part of your training. Is once a week you spend half an hour with a therapist. You don't. Sure, it may not. You may just sit there and nothing really much comes out of it, or but when you need it, it's there, and it's already part of being a professional footballer. It's part of it. Part of being a professional footballer is turning up for training. Another part is turning up for signings and the fan stuff. Another one is you're going to a therapist. Like it's probably good for standard people anyway. But it's just making sure their mental health is forefront as well as their physical health.
Yeah, exactly. Because burnout, like obviously depression, mental health issues are a big thing. But I'm just talking about regular mental strains that we go through as humans, like without having to get through the a very serious mental illness, is like dealing with your burnout, dealing with your anxiety, dealing with your
just dealing with the pressure of the situation. Like, these are people
yeah
who are having to perform at such a high level, day in, day
yeah
out. Say, like, and under extreme physical exertion as well. Like, yeah, and if they made one small mistake, like, they get crucified by millions of people.
yeah
So, that's definitely taking a strain on, and they know that. So it's definitely taking a strain on whatever mental health they are. Sure, they've got to, to get to this level, you've got really good mental fortitude. You've built your way up, but that should say that you're definitely going to need this sort of stuff, and going forward as well.
what is like Cristiano Ronaldo this last season, like he had unfortunately his child passed away when his
Yeah.
wife was giving birth, and like what is the club doing to support him through, like there's a lot of things, and I'm glad that a lot of United fans have been like let's give him a free pass for some of his emotional reactions and like wanting to leave the club and all that, because at the end of the day, he's been through a lot, and maybe he does need a change of scenery, even if it's not. I mean, sure, he's saying it's for he wants Champions League football, but could also just be, I just need to be somewhere else now. Like,
Yeah.
I can't be here.
And
And
possibly,
like,
and it's possibly that's just the way also the grief or the mental
yeah,
turmoil is presenting itself as well. Like,
yeah,
these sort of things do that. So it could
yeah,
be just
and
that's how he's processing at the moment. Is, I need to play at the best. I need to be there. I need to be Champions League football.
yeah, and like, I think if the club did offer like a therapist who's Cristiano Ronaldo's therapist, that person doesn't work for Manchester United, or
No,
they're
exactly.
just they're just paying the bills. That
Yeah,
and the player decides who they go to
yeah,
because they need to find somebody they trust and works with them. And like that could be something your agent does for you, like work out who is a good fit for you to go to therapy with,
yeah.
and like the whole once that like that's like what happened to Cristiano Ronaldo. That's a bit of an extreme case, obviously. Real personal tragedy. But even players like your youth players who don't make it on and have to give up on their careers or because of an injury or whatever, or they're having trouble because of home life stuff and they need like someone to talk to so they can uh, you know get on with things. It's just like
Yeah.
it would be a huge cost, but these clubs make a lot of money out of football players.
Yeah. I don't. It's not actually as huge a cost as that. Like, they've got much bigger costs. They
Yeah,
make plenty of money out of these football players. They can spend a few thousand looking after their mental health. Like, it's
yeah,
reality is not that big a cost. I mean, they're doing
true.
it for everyone. Yes, there's their first team. It's basically not just a few more pennies in the expense side. Sure, the first team will have to be paying, their success pays for the money that's ensuring
Yeah,
that the youth players and stuff are getting this therapy as well. Because that's really important. I think that all the youth team has got this, and it's starting to be embedded in them that this is just part of professional football, is that you look after your mental health. And so part of that is, your regular sessions with your trusted therapist, and you talk through the issues. You make sure that everything's going okay, and that you're looking
yeah,
after your mental health and stuff. Like, that's just comes with the territory. It's just, yeah, what you do.
yeah. And like, luckily, football doesn't have the issues with CTE and all that, like as
Yeah,
much.
as much.
But that's it's even if it is a thing that's gonna start affecting footballers, like somebody who's regularly maintaining logs of somebody's behavior and what they say is gonna be useful in early signs, catching that stuff out.
Yeah, and definitely, and helping with that. Yes, if there is problems, being able to um, look at statistics as well, and just checking like what is causing it, where are the issues and stuff. So if they do need to make rule changes or need to change how the
Yeah.
game's played to protect players' health from that sort of stuff as well, then you've got that data there to help drive those decision making.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, those are my solutions to the the biggest health problems affecting world football.
Nice.
If we're playing too much football, we need a pitch count. That's just the only way I can see that work.
No, I think
With a
that
minute
makes
count.
that actually makes both these make a lot of sense. But yeah, minute count makes a lot of sense. It's the city system mandated across everywhere else. Said, hey,
Yeah.
this is actually good. They say once again a bit of science in there, and we can come up with some numbers for weekly minutes or consecutive minutes that before burnout starting and for minutes over an entire season, and then teams can start managing it. So yeah, I guess the only real problem that comes out of that would be player spread, because the big clubs will want all the, it's not like they don't do it anyway, but want all the big players more so that they can always be turning out a really strong side, and so they're going to get more of the top players more concentrated in that. But your fair play rules and all the rest help to contract that, so that'll be fine.
Yeah. Like if you're gonna play so much more, to have someone not a bench warmer, even like just not even be in your match day squad.
Yeah.
Then that's rather than promote players from your youth system.
Oh yeah, exactly. So, as I say, FPA will probably deal with most of it. Players wanting to play to get international sides, get World Cups and things will be part of it as well. But that's just the downside I can see, is that the bigger clubs will want an even bigger pool of the top talent, and they already try to grab. So
Yeah. But we've talked about this before. Like at one point, it's a diminishing returns. Like good players at some point want to play, and you can only have 11 players at a time.
Exactly. So you're right. Like there is forces that counteract that. That's just the thing I see, is that
the less film the less you're on the pitch and getting film of you playing well, the less the more your stock goes down when you're a good player.
Yeah. It's just so it just adds an extra pressure from the other side. That's all. So it's just how that rebalances itself. But I sort of feel like it wouldn't be too much of a problem because of those reasons, because of the current financial rules in place anyway. So there's only so much clubs can be spending, and players' desires, like you say, top players want to be playing. They don't want to be sitting on the bench, or not even sitting on the bench and just be like, oh, this week I don't even get to play. They want to be close to the action. So
yeah. And it's just gonna be like, get the numbers and do a proper, showcase of why it should work that way.
Exactly. And the other one of just having therapists for professional footballers just makes a lot of sense.
And footballers in the youth system of big clubs.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. We say professional footballers. It's the footballers of professional clubs is perhaps a better way of putting it. Then, so cover for everybody. So you cover the youth players. You cover right down the youth development slide.
Yeah,
like a better term.
I mean, it might not be viable in League 1 and 2, where players are earning like 1,000 less or less than £1,000 a week.
Yeah.
But Championship and above, definitely viable.
I think the other thing there, that's just part of what the top of the pyramid's got to fund. Like, once again, there's some funds that just got to trickle down. Some that's like, well, it's player welfare. Like, you just don't need to have, maybe at that point, get down near the bottom of the pyramid, you don't need to have a therapist per player. Maybe it's a therapist for the team, and that might make things a little cheaper. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's
I
a
mean,
bit
it
of
doesn't necessarily have to pay for all of it. Like, it
no,
could just be like, okay, let's just say, argument's sake, half an hour weekly therapy sessions are $500. The club sets aside $500 per player per week for that.
yeah,
And that's the capped amount. If that player has a therapist who's a $2,000 per person thing, the club goes, yep, we subsidize up to $500 for
yeah,
you. But you're
yeah,
already with a therapist and you're spending extra money on your own. It's like when you get your own personal trainer and your own personal
yeah,
physio and
exactly.
exercise person. Like, okay, like that's fine. The club was just like, oh, we subsidize this though, because,
Yeah, exactly.
because therapy is not like personal trainer coming in using the club trainer is one thing like versus like talking to a therapist who works for the club as opposed to a therapist you trust, and it might be a therapist who works for the club, but
Yeah, it's your
and
choice. It's
maybe at
basically the
youth
player's choice
level
at that
that
point.
could be, yeah, for youth level that could be more the go
Yeah,
because their their problems are less about superstar
yeah.
pressure
Well, that
versus.
at the youth level, it's definitely just about getting them the tool set for if they made it to superstar level, and coping mechanisms for the pressures of trying to get there,
Yeah.
and understanding of exactly what those mental pressures are at that level, so that they have that understanding and that knowledge.
Yeah, yeah. Because I've been thinking heaps about, player. Because we all go on about too much football, but I was like, nobody seems to put an idea forward about how to
Yeah,
sort it out.
yeah, exactly. It's all well and good to say, oh, there's too much football. It's like, well, what are you gonna do? You can shorten lessen the number of games, or how are we doing this? I think yeah. We all know there's not going to be less games being played. So the
Yeah.
other way
If
is
they
to
accept that there's going to be heaps of games, but, good players can only play a certain amount of hours per thing, then they have to be like, oh, okay. How do we, because we can't just, squeeze more and more things out of these players.
yeah. Say to me it makes perfect sense. It's the city model. It's like this is how City's done it. They've made sure they've got a big enough squad. They've got people that cover each position. Everybody knows how they're doing it, and then they say their top players played like 24, 25 games last season.
Yeah.
So yeah, sees 25 is probably games a season is probably the magic number.
Well, yeah, between 25 and 30 is where we
Yeah,
want players to be at, right?
yeah. I say if you have 25 times 90, probably is going to come up to about right. So obviously they can have less than they can play more games than 25, but they played less than 90 minutes per game.
Yeah.
So maybe 27, maybe 30 at the utmost, like, and maybe there's a range, and it's like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, or because we're also allowing like 5 substitutes, so there's even more of a
Yeah,
ability to be flexible with the players. Because I think unlike rugby, where unlimited substitutes has basically turned into a weapon that's caused more injuries, it seems.
yeah,
Because it's a more physically combative sport, whereas
mm.
like in football, that's less likely because you get your most of your injuries come from
Yeah, yeah,
wear and tear breakdown on your body. So, but getting rest and like I think just proper conditioning, like you get that week to just condition and train. Like there's nothing stopping you from. You can still go to training and
yeah,
like
yeah,
but it's also in a way good. Like if you're a coach who has good trainers and assistants with you, you can take people like, oh, these guys have the week off. We're gonna drill this because you can come
yeah,
back for this game, and we're gonna drill these things.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you don't have to worry about a game. You can just spend your time drilling and.
getting ready, preparing for this game, and this is the way we're going to play this game. So this is the players for that game. So they're drilling for that. This guys are doing this game, then they'll do that game. So they'll drill in this way, and some of them are just doing this first game, the Champions League game. So they've been doing their drills for that. And so it just adds.
I'd say it will put a huge wrench on fantasy football.
Well, yeah. Poor us fantasy football players and managers.
I know. It'll destroy our squad structure and how we build teams for sure.
Yeah. That just throws a new strategy in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, those are the thoughts I had since we last spoke in our last podcast. But I think we should put it out there.
Definitely.
Get people to spread this idea. But I think that's all we have time for today.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank you very much to all of you listening. Look forward to hearing from you next time.
Catch you next time.
Well, that is the end. Thanks for listening all the way through.
If you liked what you heard, be even more. Find 642 Discord and Buy Me a Coffee.
Pretty sure it's Buy Me a Beer.
Oh yeah, buy me a beer on buymeacoffee.com.
In both these places, you can talk to us, and we may even listen, especially if you do buy a said beer or coffee. I might still be confused.
Yes, we're easily bribed. All links are in the show notes below.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
This is on YouTube.